picture is the first one I have of any of our ancestors, the earliest one. Anne Green Dutson was born in 1802 and lived in Lugwardine, Hereford, England. She was my great-great-grandmother. She later married, when she was widowed, she later married a Mr. Carling, and when she came to Utah from Nauvoo, she was always called Grandma Carling and was a midwife and the only doctor they had in Fillmore at her time. Here we have Alexander Melville, who came from Pittenweem, Scotland, and his wife, Jane Ann Dutson Melville, who came from Lugwardine, Hereford, England. They were married in Nauvoo and are my great-grandparents. They were sent by Brigham Young down to Fillmore, which had been established only 1 year and was just a fort. On the way down, they saw Indians peeking over the mountain at them, and my grandmother covered up my father, who was a baby, so the Indians wouldn't see him. When they came across the plains, Anne Green Dutson and Jane Ann Dutson Melville, the mother and grandmother of my grandfather, James Alexander Melville, carried him as a baby across the plains in a clothes basket. This is the home of Jane and Alexander Melville in Fillmore. Here is my grandmother, Imogene Gibbs Melville, and my grandfather, James Andrew Melville. This is my mother and father when they were married in 1901. Maud Crane lived in Kanosh and was the first girl to leave that town and go to the Brigham Young Academy, and came back and taught school in Fillmore, where she met my father, James Alexander Melville, who had gone to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and studied law and was then practicing law in Fillmore. Here is their first home in Fillmore and the house in which I was born. This is the first picture taken of me, Ethel Melville, born in 1901. This is the home they moved to 1 year later. This picture shows my parents standing on the walk, and I am on the horse with Olita behind me and my brother Alton on the rear. These are my maternal grandparents, Anne Howe, who came from Wick, Wales, and George Crane, who came from Yoxford, England. They were married in London before coming to the United States. This is a picture of Horace's grandparents, Peter Christian Sorensen, who came from Vestervig, Denmark, and Anne Christine Sorensen. Here we have Horace's maternal grandparents, John August Anderson and Marianne Nelson Anderson, who came from Malmö, Sweden. This is their home in Ephraim with the family in front. These are Horace's parents, Soren Christian Sorensen, who was born in Vestervig, Denmark, and his mother, Lily Matilda Anderson Sorensen, who was born in Ephraim. This is a picture of Horace as a baby. Here is Horace as a young boy, and as a missionary in the Western States Mission with his derby hat, which was required of all missionaries, about 1920. Here I am, ready to go to school with my long black stockings and black lace shoes, which I hated. And these are my parents, Maud and Alex Melville. This is a picture of me taken when we were married. And this is Horace, taken about the same time. We went in a Model T Ford, our first car, on a honeymoon trip up to Yellowstone Park, and it took us 5 days to get up there. We are in Immigration Canyon. Looks like Rhea Gardner in the background. Here's Maynard, Grandma Sorensen, and Grandpa Sorensen. In 1932, Beth Ann, Marge, Maynard with his dog Tippy, and again going hunting. Here's Maynard and his dog Tippy going hunting in the canyon. And here's Horace fixing breakfast for the children, Beth Ann, Marge, and Maynard. Beth Ann waiting for toast. Dad shooting. And Marge, the climber, is up in the top of a big tree. Beth Ann and one of the canyon children. And here are the 4 Felt children, Pete, Ann, Susan, and Tommy. They lived next door. They had great fun running through the hose on a hot day, and every day Rhea Hurst made ice cream. These are the 3 ducks the children got for Easter, now half grown and living in the stream that flowed before the house. One day one of them got caught on the worm on a fishing hook. And that's Grandma Sorensen's family. There's Maynard and Beth Ann down below. Neva. And that's one of the Knoll brothers. I think that's David. Shirley Anderson. And there's Mabel, Fay, Harv, Bill, Lucy, Grandpa, Horace, Grandma, Nabby down below, and Neva in front. Maynard showing off his new cowboy outfit. Beth Ann. Beth Ann with her new pajamas. And she had recently learned to tie a bow. Here's Jim Clayton with his cowboy outfit. He's now dean of the graduate school at the University of Utah, but he loved to follow Maynard around. This is Beth Ann's costume party for a primary party during the Christmas holidays. It was very warm, no snow that year. This is the little playhouse in our backyard at our home on Harvard Avenue. Here are the three children going off to school, over to the Uinta. And here comes Grant Hardy, who was Beth Ann's best friend. He lived next door. And they're joined by Howard Hardy, too, as they approach the school. Here's Jim and Connie Clayton in front of their home in Pleasant Grove. Jim, as we said before, is dean of the graduate school at the U, and Connie is living in Washington, D.C., and is a guide in the Smithsonian Institution once a week. Maynard pulling the wagon, with Beth Ann riding and Marge behind. If you'll notice in the next picture, most of them have a tooth missing. And here we are in front of Grandmother Melville's home on 3rd Avenue. My grandmother, Imogene Gibbs Melville. I used to like to go up there and stay at her place and sleep overnight. She had a beautiful beaded lamp that was gorgeous, I thought, when it was lighted. This is the Deseret National Bank where my grandfather, James Andrew Melville, was a director. This picture was taken in 1926. Here's my mother and father, Maud and Alec Melville, in front of their home on 13th East, and Naoma and my brother Alton, my sister Oleta and her husband Ernest Clayton and their 2 children, myself and my 3. This is a picture of Connie Clayton. And here is Jim again with our dog Fluffy. We loved that little dog. This is Oleta and Ernest with their 2 children, their first 2, and Marge doing her somersaults, and Beth Ann performing, and Maynard and Fluffy. That's Maynard's first outfit. Here's Rhea Hurst, who lived with us for a long time and used to consider these 3 children part of her family. Here's Alton and Verna before they were married, eating watermelon in front of Mother's home. I think they were engaged then, but hadn't been married yet. This is the little playhouse in our backyard on Harvard Avenue. I don't know who the baby is. Looks like it might be Connie again. Oh, here we are in Kenosh with the Staples boys. My cousin Owen Staples and his wife Melba had 10 children, and we loved to go down there to vacation. Ride the horses and ride out to the farm, out to the hay fields on the edge of town and tromp hay. Bring the cows home from the pasture. When we gave Beth Ann a cup of milk when we were down there. Oh, here's Aunt Ella. She was a darling. I used to have more fun down there. In fact, I wanted to stay down there and live with them when I was little. And that's her sister Grace, and here's Owen and Melba and their family. I was going to say, when we gave Beth Ann some milk when we were visiting in Kenosh, she said, I don't want any cow's milk, I want some milk from a bottle. She didn't know where milk came from. Oh, this is my cousin Lois Maxfield, Lois Melville Maxfield and her husband Lee, when they were married at our home. Beth Ann was the flower girl. Oh, Horace is out duck hunting. He loved to go hunting, and Maynard loved to go with him too. But he used to belong to one of the duck clubs, and he would go out until the water was frozen over ice. This is Connie learning to walk. I think it's Connie. Beth Ann's learning to roller skate. And Marge is learning too, and Maynard has a new bicycle. This is his first bike. This was in front of our home on Harvard. Oh, these must be some of the neighbor children. Well, these are the first pictures we took of Stanford when he was a baby. He was a cute little fellow. We certainly enjoyed him. Here we are at the farmhouse we built out on Connor Street. Stan was a little baby, and Marge was wearing one of my furs. Well, he hadn't yet learned to walk. We were trying to get him to get going so he could beat some of his little cousins walking, who were about the same age. And there's Beth Ann and Marge with him. Christmas 1935, Beth Ann with Stan before he was a year old. And Marge with Stan out in front of our home on the corner of Harvard Avenue and 15th East. And the dog. Easter Sunday, 1936, and it looks like that is out to the farmhouse out on Connor Street. We hadn't yet moved out there. Stan playing with one of the dogs. He was a happy baby, and there's our, what do you call that kind of a dog?
Dalmatian.
Yeah, Dalmatian. The mother Dalmatian. She had about 6 or 8 little puppies at one time. Dalmatian dogs like to be with horses. And here are the children's Easter baskets out in front of the little house we first built on Connor, and there are their Easter ducks. We kept these little ducks until they were half grown and took them up the canyon and let them swim in front of the stream that ran in front of the house. Well, they always got ducks or rabbits or something live for Easter. Little chickens didn't live long, but ducks could survive their playing with. Here we are on the back lawn of the little home we first built out on Connor Street with Florence and Milt Backman. And it looks like Betty down there at the bottom. They've been good friends for many, many years. And our children at Easter time, and Stan eating some candy Easter eggs. Oh, Horace is cultivating the garden out in the back. We used to have a big garden, and Stan is trying to help. He liked to tag along. We had at one time an acre of tomatoes during the war, and when we had to let the horses go during the war, we raised pigs and turkeys and cows and sold milk and did everything we could to help the war effort along. And had a big garden. We used to pick strawberries and the children would sell them, and Marge was scared to death of the spiders out in the strawberries. She hated picking them because she'd always run into a spider. And here's Stan learning to walk, from Beth Ann to Marge. He was just over a year old. Oh, and Beth Ann's down in the little gazebo with one of the little dogs, well, a little pug, bulldog and a kitten. We had all kinds of animals out on the farm. And this was one of the dogs that Horace bought. Now, oh, Ria's up the canyon, up Immigration Canyon in our home making ice cream. And here are the Felt children lined up to get the drippings from the freezer and the dripper. We made ice cream every day up there. There's Pete and Susan and Ann and Tom Felt. We all loved ice cream. They lived next door to us. 1936. Oh, here's Stan as a baby. We're in front of the fireplace in the little house. And he's getting ready to hang up his stocking. He was what? He was born in March, and this is his second Christmas. He had curly hair, too. He still does. There's Maynard and Marge. Oh, Marge loved her ringlets. We had to get her a permanent so she could have ringlets. And Beth Ann, they're hanging up their stockings. That's the Christmas Beth Ann and Marge decided they were going to stay awake and catch Santa Claus. Marge was to take the first turn. When she got tired, she'd waken Beth Ann, and Beth Ann would watch till she got tired, then she'd waken Marge. Well, when morning came, Beth Ann stayed awake, and as long as she could, then she fell asleep and forgot to waken Marge, and they never did find out if who Santa Claus was. But anyway, we've laughed about that many times. Beth Ann couldn't stay awake. And Stan is emptying his stocking. And oh, also this year the girls wanted sophisticated dolls, not baby dolls. Maynard got boots. And the girls got these fancy dress-up dolls. That was fun, Christmas out there in that little house. Stan's showing off some, oh, it's a little boy on a bicycle. And here he is holding the dolls. Oh, this is what he loved to do. He got this for his second birthday, a log and a hammer and a bunch of nails. And he hammered nails in the top of that stump until it was covered with nails. That was a great birthday present. He'd like that better than anything he got. I'd suggest you giving it to some of your little boys. Oh, here he is walking down to the barn, from the house down to the barn. He left to go down there because we had horses and all kinds of things. Oh, here we have a wagon load of rabbits. Somebody gave, one of the boys gave Beth Ann a pair of rabbits just for fun. And before we knew it, we had about 20 rabbits down at the barn, and we had to start getting rid of them. He was a busy little guy. Oh, here he is with the baby calf. Spring with the tulips and the baby animals. This calf didn't like it very well. He's got the calf's tail. Oh, and he's down at the barn bringing out the baby kittens. We also had baby kittens. We wanted a picture of him with the little kittens. Well, he's kissing them. So he'd go in the barn and get, there he kicked the mother cat, because as fast as he'd bring the kittens out, she'd pick one up and take it back in the barn where she wanted them. And he got really provoked at her. There she goes, taking the babies back where they belong. Oh, she was a cute cat. So he decided to give up. Oh, this is his second Christmas down in Sugar House with Santa Claus. Beth Ann took him down there to see Santa Claus, and he was a little bit afraid of him. He didn't quite know what it was all about. And he wouldn't go to him. And there he is with his teddy bear. I guess he got that for Christmas, and a little car. And one Christmas, Santa Claus brought him a little duplicate of a farmer's wagon and a billy goat to pull it, but the billy goat wasn't very cooperative. That was when he was a little older. He's on the back walk that went from the house to the barn. He's beginning to look like his dad now. Oh, here he is at his birthday party. Now let's see, that's on the back porch of the little house. And I think he had his 3 little cousins who were all born that spring. There was Marvin Melville, and Roger Noel, and Sally Sorensen. And they were all born within 2 or 3 months of each other. So they had a birthday party outside so we could take movies. Here we are up at Crater Lake after a trip to the World's Fair in San Francisco. We took the 3 older children, left Stan home. And at Crater Lake, they were feeding these little chipmunks. That's Beth Ann, I think. Crater Lake was a beautiful trip. And we were going to go on up to Seattle, but we phoned home and they told us that Stan hadn't been very well. We decided to go home early and skip Seattle. This is a shot of Crater Lake in the background. Those little chipmunks were so tame, they had a lot of fun with them. That's Crater Lake. It's a beautiful spot. Oh, here's Naoma when she married Dr. Alma Cottom, and she's wearing my mother's wedding dress. And this was taken out in front of my parents' home on 13th East, and there's Alma. He was a medical student then. Oh, here we are out at the home on, oh, that's the barn out on Connor Street in the winter. And this is our home. We moved in just at Christmas time. And we celebrated our first Christmas in the home this year. Now this looks like some of the boys playing football out on our front lawn. They used to come over there every Sunday afternoon and play football. Now Maynard could tell you who the boys are. I don't remember them, but they were all neighborhood boys. And they used to come over there and play, and then in the night they'd sneak down into our swimming pool and go swimming in the night when nobody knew them. Oh, we took the twins to Mexico when they were 12 years old because they could travel for half fare. And this is a scene down on Lake Cholula where did a lot of fishing. And we'd been to Mexico City. We had taken the twins to Mexico when they were 12 years old because they could travel half fare. After touring Mexico, we boarded the Santa Paula and had a trip through the Panama Canal and up to Havana. This looks like Havana, Cuba. Oh, here we are with great-grandmother, my grandmother Melville. She was about 92 then. I think this was her birthday. Oh, we're down in Florida now. We took Beth Ann and Stanford on a trip down through the United States, the southern part, and then took a boat over to Nassau. And Stan celebrated his fifth or sixth birthday down here. And they loved to go swimming on the beach, and they spent so much time the first 2 or 3 days down there that they both got a bad sunburn, and Stan was sick. We had to call a doctor, and he told we had to stay there 2 or 3 days longer till he recovered enough to travel again. But that was their trip.